Good afternoon, MLB Pro family. Scott Guessford, your Sacramento A's GM. Today I'm with Cole from Milwaukee and the anonymous GM to talk about the trades that have been going down. Anonymous GM, have you seen anything that shocks you yet?
8 minutes to go to be shocked. We've seen teams be busy today, whether that be Cole's Brewers. We've seen the Giants make a couple moves. The Angels have made a couple moves. The Rays have made a couple moves. Pirates still out there lurking. I think the Braves are still lurking. The White Sox just got better a few minutes ago with Will Heupel. The Cubs have been busy. Ed Harris to Kansas City. Bernard Blanchard to Milwaukee. It's been a busy 24 hours, as we were saying before we started recording. Doesn't matter the year. It doesn't matter how quiet the trade winds are blowing before the trade deadline gets here. The trade deadline gets here, and trades happen, and that's happened again this year.
Yeah, last 45 minutes or an hour, people perk up.
Cleveland's been busy.
Yeah,
We saw them add the pieces they just got from San Francisco, 4 AAA players, but 4 players that should make the Cleveland roster here tomorrow and make Cleveland better. And any small step forward is a good step for Cleveland, and I think they did that.
yeah, that's what we were talking about. We were kind of going, Cleveland stock in their AAA team, which will be their major league team here shortly, and they're getting in the game.
For me, it was interesting to see them be so aggressive with trading off some of their younger talent. Trying to take a little more approach to be relevant sooner rather than I think a lot of us thought they would be.
I agree. At the same time, I did have to look up. Diego Quintana is only 25, Noah Bryant 26, Justin Foscue 26, Anthony Russo 27. So you're right. They traded 20, 21-year-olds, but they didn't go into the 30s. So I think they're still youth. But you're right. There's a long way to go in Cleveland.
Yeah, and the Giants have been working on their bullpen, and Arizona's been kind of quiet.
Arizona, I mean, again, we've discussed this the other day. Ohtani was the big one. Cole, you can weigh into this. When you saw Ohtani's name on the block, did you think there was any possibility of a trade actually happening, both because of the required ask and then the contract situation?
When I heard that Colorado had no interest, they were kind of standing pat. I was like, I don't know if there's any teams out there that really have enough pieces to get it done. There's just not. I'm like, I don't think there's anyone that really had enough top talent that was willing to part with it to get it done. So I just didn't really think there was ever kind of a shot of it happening.
Yeah. And then you saw what Lance McCullers' name, probably half jokingly. There's not a ton of need. Again, the Diamondbacks are a really good team.
Yeah.
They're going to compete with the Giants. They're going to compete with the Phillies. So to trade Ohtani was going to be tough. They don't have any glaring needs necessarily. It is a little surprising they've been as quiet as they've been because the Giants have gotten better, but there wasn't a ton that the Diamondbacks needed at the same time.
Well, and knowing that Ohtani was going to probably, the odds are 99% Ohtani's opting out at the end of the year. You got a couple month rental.
Again, I know I still don't know how serious Kimberly was about that.
Right.
It was going to be difficult from the start if she was serious.
Yeah.
And
for 100 different reasons, but yeah.
Yeah. So who do you think improved their team the most right now at this trade deadline with 3.5 minutes to go or so?
I would say I'm going to stay away from the NL Central because I still think there might be more to come there. And I think the Cardinals got better a couple weeks ago. So there's too many teams to go there. So I'm going to go elsewhere. I think the Tampa Bay Rays did themselves. They've had a very good day without seeing. I know there's one more trade in the works potentially there, but to get both Ben Toder and Jesus Luzardo, and to one immediately, I think that bolsters any bullpen because I think Luzardo and Toder have the potential to be very good pieces in a playoff bullpen. But they also didn't give up a whole lot to acquire both of them. So I think Tampa Bay had a very good day in getting better both, and they're both signed. So I really like what Tampa Bay did today.
Yeah, I didn't really want to give up Luzardo, but I got so many arms and facing salary restrictions for next year already. Yeah, we'll take a
No,
shot.
I mean, yeah, I didn't mind it from your end. I mean, I think it was a fine trade. It's not that I thought the return was overwhelmingly light. I think to acquire both of the pieces they got, it was good for them, and it appears we could see Zach Potter being on the move here, which would be an interesting addition because he has not pitched well this year.
Well, where
Despite the
you
fact that scouts do seem high on his arm still.
where do you see him going?
That I couldn't tell you. I have no insight, and trying to guess off the top of my head, the White Sox, the White Sox.
Okay,
Mm.
that'd be interesting. The White Sox have a lot of arms already, though, especially with Perez still pitching in AAA.
They're just, I think last I checked, 12th in starters ERA, 14th in bullpen, something along those lines. It's not good. To get to Marmoros at times a struggle. Brent Humphrey has helped out a little bit, but maybe they take a chance. Just teams that have been active today. Again, Atlanta's not having. Pittsburgh's added Duvall and McCain. I don't think they want to do it. Could Milwaukee here sneak in here? Who's Cole have something up his sleeve? Maybe. Kansas City. I don't see it. There's aren't many teams I see where it would make sense. It's not going to LA. That seems safe to say. I don't know, but everyone's got about 1 minute, it looks like, to get some trades in. So whatever's lurking better happen soon.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Who do you think made the most impact on their team? You asked me. What about you? Who do you guys have as the big winner of the day?
I was thinking the same thing when about Tampa Bay, but
Yeah, I mean
I'm
they've done a good job of I think getting in pitching pieces. I'm interested to see how the Musgrove Cole trade ends up. If that change of scenery for both of them helps again. But I mean, for me being biased from the NL Central, I just think the NL Central as a whole being competitive as a division for the first time, really since I've been in the league, I love that.
It's fascinating. I didn't even realize that we've got a tie now back at the top with your Brewers and Pirates. It's going to come down to the end. It is. I think I sold my Pirate stock on here a couple weeks ago and bought in the Pirates or in the Cardinals rather, but that's still because of Giolito and Copeland. But Giolito pitches once every fifth day. Pedro Cuevas can certainly match Giolito, and it's a wide open division with the exception now of the Cubs with their kind of fire sale, but anything
Hmm.
seems possible.
yeah. Um, oh, I just got a message from the Braves, and he said I almost had Miller Thomas moved.
Mm.
It looks like the trade deadline is no more.
Uh, well, that'll teach Brenton for going too late. We had a
What the highlight or not highlight low light the league history mate note will always be who was it? It was oh my goodness, name escaping me. Why is his name escaping me? It was Brent. When his wife was giving birth to a child, I believe, and missed a trade by like 45 seconds.
yeah. We were
Way back when.
way back when we were just working on a trade, and he finally said like a minute to go, send it. I'm like, there's no way I can get it in. Yeah.
See, I mean, here I'll just quickly run down this. Well, I mean, we won't. If a trade interests you enough to speak on it, let me know. But yesterday we saw San Francisco send Miguel Geraldo, Kevin Comer, Zach Johnson, Oliver Gonzalez, to Atlanta for Walker Buehler. We talked about that one the other day, didn't we?
Yes, we did a little bit. That was a good trade.
So we started here with last night. The Angels acquiring Jed McKinley for 3 prospects, highlighted by Danny Sanchez and Osiel Rodriguez. It'll be very interesting to see where McKinley fits in LA.
Yeah.
With Easton Dean still behind the plate, so don't expect to see him catch every day. But you add a guy who has proven hit, makes sense. The aforementioned Ben Toder of Baltimore to Tampa Bay for Andrew Taylor, a Double-A prospect. Baltimore's bullpen obviously was a strength early in the year with the likes of Dibble, Toder, Wes Clark, Roberto Osuna. So they still have Osuna, they still have Clark, so still a strength. Kansas City acquired Ed Harris for Brian Cooper and Gunnar Gray, a trade that made sense for both sides. Chicago wasn't going to bring back Ed Harris. You get a Brian Cooper and a prospect. Perfect. Cole mentioned the Atlanta Tampa Bay Major League pitcher swap of Musgrove and Cole.
That was kind of an interesting trade.
It is. We've all seen, I think, the early prediction of Garrett Cole's struggles within the Tampa Bay organization, and those came to fruition. So I think for John's sanity, it was a trade that had to happen. I don't know if Musgrove is any better, but at least John doesn't have to watch Garrett Cole pitch anymore. Yes. The Mark McCain, Joey Raftery, you brought that one up, Scott. Pittsburgh's bullpen gets better. McCain would have been hurt. Angels don't lose anything there. Okay. Brandon Smith, Jesus Luzardo, we talked about that. Okay, Cole, tell me about Greg Allison. Can you tell me anything about him coming from the Cincinnati bullpen? Have you faced him much this year? Rather, I take that back. I'm sorry. San Francisco trades Greg Allison to Cincinnati for 2 prospects. So Greg Allison fixes a Cincinnati bullpen, which I believe needed some fixing.
Yeah.
The
that was
Giants.
Probably the weak point on their team right now. I know their offense has been struggling, but the bullpen's been an issue for them, and I think that's the part that's kind of held them back. So it's good to see them add to that, and I know makes my road tougher to win this division.
Instead of looking this up, Scott, can you tell me what you made a big trade this past offseason with Hunter? Was that Hunter Green this past offseason?
The Hunter Green, I believe it was.
Do you remember what that trade was?
No, let me see if I can look him up real quick because he's still in Atlanta. Oh no, that was yesterday that he got traded. Oh no, there he is, Hunter Green. I'm trying to find him. What's the date? 7/13/25. Oh, that's when
I got it. I got it. It's right here. TJ Bray and Jordan Lawler for Victor Mejia and Cam Randall. I thought there was more to it. So none of those players on either side are making much noise. Is that correct?
No, not right now. And then when I traded him to Atlanta, I got RJ Scott and a shortstop prospect.
Gotcha. So yeah. Cincinnati gets what they needed. The 4-for-4 swap, the Giants, the Guardians, minor leaguers for minor leaguers. We saw Paul Robbins, who is known for his time as a Yankee hitting home runs, now with the Cubs and now with the Guardians for Drew Gilbert. And the other trade I think today that was really helpful, and you can fill us in on this one, Cole, was Tracy Mass and Bernard Blanchard for Aaron Nixon, Kyle Jacobson, Dylan Campbell, and TJ Nichols. And you can also fill me in on this because I hear that Aaron Nixon was a tough sell to get that deal done. Can you talk to us about that trade?
Yeah, so I had been in on Ed Harris to start the day, and Casey beat me out on that. And so I went, talking to Justin, I knew Blanchard was going to be a higher price, and Nixon was someone who had just taken a gigantic leap forward. And 80 grade changeup was something that in a bullpen can be incredibly helpful. And I was kind of it's one of those things where you're looking to he could be a good piece to add, but it's like my window is now. I have kind of 2 years left. You really to go win this thing. So giving him up, and then Jacobson's name has come up in several different conversations as a top hitting piece for me. So parting with that was, it's kind of sad. It's sad. It's always sad to see your prospects go, but knowing that Blanchard's speed's going to come in and play exactly what we want, and then adding another bullpen piece with Mass um, it was a necessary evil at this time to go win in these next 2 years.
The follow up to that would be usage. You have Roberto Torres in center currently, Alex O'Connell in left, Mike Ogden in right, and DH with Daniel Paolini. How do you see Blanchard fitting in? Is he going to be a fourth outfielder and maybe Jock Peterson finds his spot in the minors or free agency?
Yeah, it's been a long battle between me and Jock Peterson on what his role is going to be. And he's been on the outs for kind of a while, but he's been useful for me. So there's a good chance he gets released here in the next couple days to make room for Blanchard. But Blanchard will probably split a lot of time in left field with O'Connell, kind of doing a left-handed, right-handed platoon just to uh, get him off his feet a little more because O'Connell's kind of my backup center fielder as well. So being able to kind of rotate him and then those kind of three with Torres to just keep them fresh is kind of the plan right now.
And
Have
then
you
what about Tracy Mass in your bullpen?
I mean, he was kind of a late addition actually to this trade, but I'll find a space for him. I have a couple guys that started out hot in the bullpen and kind of cooled off lately, so he'll probably find himself somewhere in between a middle relief role and probably being kind of a setup stopper position.
Cole, have you thought about like moving McGarrett back to third base and Poloni to second and using Blanchard as your DH?
I've thought about it. Part of the reason I feel we've been successful this year has been the defense for us. And while Stetson Bennett hasn't always been the best offensively, him at third and McGarrett at second is way better than having McGarrett at third and Polini at second base. So it's something to consider depending on kind of who's hot and who's not. But there's a real possibility he ends up in the DH spot, or um, maybe Mike Ogden could end up in a DH spot. He's been kind of the Iron Man for me this year, playing almost every game. So he may get some more time towards the end of the year in a DH spot and have Blanchard go out in right field.
Okay.
The good part about this is that I think it gives me more roster flexibility than I've had in the past, which is what I was kind of looking for.
Is there anyone you guys had heard was on the block or maybe just thought would be on the block that wasn't moved that you're surprised by, or a team that you felt had a need that didn't do something? Either side of those, are there any big surprises for you guys?
There really wasn't any for me. I think a lot of people had already made their major moves earlier in the month, like me trading Giolito, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if any big names, and we didn't, any huge names.
I thought maybe the Dodgers would be a little more seller seller happy. I know they made a couple trades, but just knowing where they're at and kind of how they've been successful in the past, I thought maybe they would go out and try to sell off a couple more pieces.
I'm still very surprised that he is not having a good year. And there's no hiding that he hasn't had a good year to date. But I'm very surprised Julio Rodriguez wasn't acquired by a team, uh, simply based on the fact that everyone seems to be complaining about their backup catcher.
Well, yeah,
And Rodriguez, the potential for him to catch fire with that power, I thought there was enough there for him to be an attractive ad, very, very cheap ad with the Dodgers not having any desire to re-sign him, that I'm quite surprised he didn't get.
yeah, and I was kind of surprised that neither the AL Central or the NL Central, I mean, really made like a bunch of moves. I thought once one trade hit, then there'd be some reaction from Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or even Milwaukee. If something got move, after the Giolito trade to St. Louis.
Yeah,
Everything
I
I've
think
heard was Pittsburgh wanted to be aggressive. And they did bring in McCain and Duvall, so their bullpen, which has been an issue at times, got better. You add the two of them with Jonah Ryan. I think they're seventh, eighth, ninth is pretty strong now. But Jack Ryan was definitely floated around today, uh, perhaps too late in the process. But I think they'll be a team to watch this offseason. If they between Ryan, McDowell, their recent first round picks, I think Pittsburgh's the team to watch come November.
Yes,
they're
they'll get better this offseason, I think.
I think they're of the four teams right now competing in the Central, they're the best set up to compete long term right now. So I would very much expect him to start being more and more aggressive.
Yeah. So, and I thought the AL Central would be a little bit more aggressive than they were, because that's a wide open division.
It is. Detroit's health on the mound, I think, probably played a role in their inability or their willingness to not dive into their prospect pool. If Jason Groom and Liberatore are healthy, maybe a team could have pried away Anthony or Merrill. But without being at full strength and without the guarantee, without the likelihood of being at full strength at any point the rest of the way, I think it made it tough for Detroit to kind of not go all in, but make a big step. Um, we saw Kansas City tinker. I think it's fair to say they didn't go do anything drastic. And the White Sox were the interesting team too, but that pitching staff again, it's so bad that it would have been tough to overcome even with a big move. And they're still right there. I mean, the biggest moves we saw came from Minnesota trading away pieces. So it's an interesting spot, that division.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised we didn't see a lot of, you know, stuff from the AL West and the Angels in Seattle and Houston. Those big three know that they're going to make it the playoffs, and so they're just, trying to jockey for position.
Yeah, two of them. I think money might have been an issue. Age is getting up there a little bit in Seattle. You have Machado on the last year his deal. I think it was maybe a little difficult to make the big move. We also seen Max Rice make his way to the bigs. We saw in Major League Baseball what the Padres traded the number 3 overall prospect today, where the Mariners going to be willing to do the same with shortstop Austin Alderton. Maybe not quite because of their high priced roster. Someone like Aaron White last year was deal, but again, if you're Houston, you've got I think $300 million in payroll here in the next couple of years. Your time to win is now, so you're not moving those guys. But Houston needed pitching and not getting pitching, I think, probably is a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. Philadelphia's running around with the AL East, so nothing major there. So yeah, I think overall it was kind of a busy last hour, couple hours maybe, but nothing blockbuster that we see today.
How, without getting into specifics, and I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. There were rumors. I don't know if teams were approaching you or if you were approaching teams with both Dylan Carlson and Greg Faustini. Did anything get serious? Were they simply feelers? Can you maybe explain that process a little bit?
Yeah, Fustini, I really was not planning on trading unless somebody knocked my socks off with a couple of top 100 prospects at least to go there. So nothing really ever materialized with that. Carlson, he was very close to being moved here, but like I said, the deadline hit and the other team didn't say anything till like a minute before the deadline and couldn't get that trade put in.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know who the next wave of players will be interesting to watch this off season. Just teams that could do it. I mean, let me pull up the standings really quickly. To Cole's point, and I think someone else mentioned it in chat earlier today, Colorado's in a very interesting spot behind the Giants and D-backs, but
Yeah.
a team that's competed in the past, and despite their struggles, they're still 53 and 55, so they're maybe not quite as big of a rebuild as maybe it appears. So they'll be interesting. I think both New Yorks are in weird spots. We talked
Yeah.
about Miami. I think that's maybe the biggest news of the day, that not only was Ronald Acuna not traded, but it sounds like he's hours, days away from being extended. So a building block in Miami, which then makes how they build that roster going forward, I think something to watch. You mentioned Texas the other day, nothing out of Texas. Again, another catcher there in Cam Gallagher that didn't get moved. And Toronto, no one ended up with Aroldis Chapman, Jackson Cower. There were some other interesting pieces still available in Toronto. So I think teams got what they wanted, and I don't know if pricing wasn't right or if just the number of buyers with needs wasn't there. I heard Cleveland had made a big play or was intrigued by a big prospect in LA. LA made a play on one of the Cleveland bats, and Cleveland wanted to build with that bat, and that trade then there weren't a lot of teams that necessarily where both sides could get what they wanted. I think that was maybe a big factor throughout the league in the deadline.
Yeah, I think so too. That it's hard to match up, especially with teams that are kind of like borderline, like with me and the A's and Colorado and the teams that are like 500 and don't really have a chance for this year, but what about next year? You
Exactly.
you don't want to trade off all your best prospects, you know, to get somebody for right now if you're not going to have a chance at the division or a wild card spot.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
To
And
trade, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think a little part of it is there's kind of been so some of these teams that maybe aren't competing right now are more in a youth movement than they ever have been. Like Cleveland has quite a few young pieces. Colorado has some young pieces. Looking around today, I was trying to find maybe a third baseman I could go out and get who maybe wasn't necessarily on the block, but I could pry away from someone. And so many of the guys are 26 or younger. So I think there's, these teams that maybe aren't competing right now are seeing a lot of these have a lot more young guys in these spots instead of the, 32, 33-year-olds that they used to have.
And then
The
the other
other,
thing, I was going to say, the
go
other
ahead.
thing I think people are scared of is what happens when we transfer over to 26. You
Yeah,
know,
that's going to play a role. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, and some of these teams took over situations that they're still dealing with prior ownership. Um, yes, Cleveland brought their current regime brought in Roki Sasaki, but Nick Williams still making $15 million a year. We're still dealing with. I think they're paying off Tommy Joseph. I believe they released last year. Still taking away at their finances. So teams that are rebuilding that still have these restrictive finance blockers on their roster that teams. Nick Williams, we've seen it with what the heck's his name? George Springer in Seattle these last few years. Was
yeah.
George Springer overpaid? Yes. But he wasn't overpaid to the point where he was a joke. Nick Williams is overpaid in Cleveland. Um, but perhaps he still should have been playing full time for the Guardians. And maybe he would have maintained some sense of trade value, but he's dipped to the point where I don't think anyone was willing to touch him. Like if you were going to Cleveland, you were asking for Sasaki, Rodriguez, Justice, and
Mhm.
Waxman, um, which made sense with what Cleveland was asking for, but it also made no sense for Cleveland to trade those guys. So right back to your point, Cole, just the age discrepancy of some of these rosters, it made it tough.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else we want to talk about before we sign off?
No, I think that's everything I have.
Cole, anything else?
No, I don't think so. Just excited to see how this year ends. I think there's a couple divisions that are gonna come right down to the end, and it'll actually have some fun battles this year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, if new teams make the playoffs or if somebody, out of the blue, has a hot end.
Hmm.
And Milwaukee and Tampa just submitted a trade, the Gabriel Vaughn trade. It got approved right now, so I think that's gonna get rejected for being past the deadline. Sorry, Cole.
It happens. It's
We'll leave
what.
that up to Matt. That's what he gets paid the big bucks for.
Yeah, I'll go message him right now, try to fight for it, but understandable if it doesn't get through.
Yep. So, all right. Well, I thank both of you for coming on and chatting. I wish we would have had some more exciting trades to talk about, but let's look to see who goes from here and goes out and maybe wins their division because of a trade they made today.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right, we're gonna sign off and thank you guys
Thanks, guys.
for coming on,
thank
and we'll
you.
chat with you later on. Bye.